All right, guys, I am super excited about our guest today. We have integrity partner John Wetmore, and he has a great story. He's been with John. How long you been with FFL?
Since the day they opened the doors.
Since the day they opened the doors, but his path has not been easy. Just like anyone who's gotten to any level of success, they've had to go through some things. So, thank you, Corinne, for getting this set up as well. Getting John set up with us today. So we do this every Friday at 11 o'clock. But you are our first guest speaker, John. You're going to kick our 2025 off for our team for High Voltage and Fury. And we got a couple other guest team members on because we invited the whole organization to see you this morning, John. So go ahead, let it rip. We were here to hear what I got my notepad out.
I love it. What up, KG Killer? You got nicknames everywhere.
What up? Thank you
I love
again.
it. I'm glad you set it up. And we got confused. I was messaging her on like 14 different platforms, and it took me a minute to realize it was all the same person I was talking to.
Not at the present moment. I'm not hearing about your
I talked
voice.
a lot. Yep.
All right. Well, now you get some rest. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to being your agent.
I ain't mad at someone selling. You gonna make them like you hit the little checkbox like mute on arrival.
I know. I'm like trying to do it fast enough.
My team has a setup to where they come in muted. Granted, some people still hit the button, but it's all good. I'm used to it after all these years. It never goes perfect, but appreciate you having me on. I can definitely chat for a little while, but I like to make these kind of interactive to help some people. For those that don't know, I'll give a brief background, so you can mostly understand. I think a lot of people see some of us that are, there you go, pastor. You got pastor in here. Uh-oh. I gotta be careful with what I say. Sometimes I let loose, so I'm gonna apologize in advance if I get fired up. Sometimes
He's not a real pastor.
Pastor Gus.
His nickname is Pastor of Success. Okay,
I hear you. I'm just making sure. Sometimes the ladies,
I'm sure.
Sometimes I offend people.
No,
was the word. I grew up in the hood.
We need you to keep it 100% real today. Don't hold back. Oh.
The pastor cuss. I like it. Oh man, wasn't that mean you, Nate? Was that you, Nate? I was talking to about last night with the shirt. Yeah, that's funny. I got these shirts that, well, you probably wear it. It's probably right next to you. You should show him. He's I'll let you bring it up. I started contracting with FFL in November of 2013. So it's been however long that is, 11 plus years. I was a little brand new agent. I'd only been full-time in the business like 3 months then. I did a year part-time prior with the same crew, just a different company, same company Sean came from. I was always in the same hierarchy. And you got it there? We were DMing last night or yesterday, whatever, a couple days ago. I got these shirts. You're gonna have to put it close because you can't see it. DBAB is one of my favorite expressions. And he said, is this the church version? Because it's like starred out the word bitch. And he goes, I feel like a bitch when I put it on because it doesn't actually say it. It's like blurred out a little bit. And then I found out that's how my team made it. Anyway, so like I was an accountant, 35 years old, just trying to figure life out, 5 kids, broke as shit, just trying to find extra money on the side. And that's the shortest version I can give you of what got me started in the insurance business. I was making like 40 grand a year, crunching numbers for some corporate place I hated working for. Had an hour and a half commute. My boss was,
on Fridays it'd be crowded. So I said, you know what? Oh,
you muted me. It wasn't me. The host whoever's doing the muting keeps muting me too. Anybody ever had a boss they work for that they couldn't stand going into every day? Or anybody got one of those right now? You go in every day and you can't stand seeing that person. You got to put on that fake ass smile to bring home your $437 a week or whatever it is you make. Well, I did that for a really long time because I had 5 kids and I didn't have a choice, but to work for people. But I always wanted more. I always felt like I could do more. I always felt like I could achieve more. I just didn't know how to do it. And a buddy of mine got me into the insurance business, connected me with Sean and the crew I came in with. And I started out and I was like, dope, I sat down with my first client, called some leads. The real story is the first time I called leads, I quit. And I quit for 2 years. So some of y'all know that if I left it out, you'd have been like, don't forget that part. I actually started in 2010, dialed once, made 30 phone calls. I guess I told myself I got beat up that day and got crushed on the phones and all the stuff, and I quit. And I came back 2 years later and got started again. And funny enough, second time came in, made some calls on my buddy's back deck, little rickety old table, sat on his back deck because he didn't have service in his house. Made some calls, booked an appointment, went to a client's house, sold $2,000 on my first sit. I was like, yo, this business is easy. I'm gonna kill it. And then I proceeded to like have chargeback and not be able to figure out leads and sell $4,000 a month and ride the roller coaster for the next, I don't know, year and a half. And you know, I don't know if anybody understands that ride. Y'all get that? You make a sale and then you lose a sale and then you got to buy leads and then the electric bill comes in and the car payment comes in and the insurance comes in and you got to buy leads and the kids want something new for school and it's time to sign up for baseball and all the stuff. You know, that was my life. So I can relate heavily. And you get frustrated and you don't know where to turn. And you're like, yo, where's the magic leads? Hey, Schmidt, what do you say on the phone to make them stop telling me they didn't fill it out? Hey, Dom, what do you say when they keep telling you what and them and hang up on you? And you're like banging your head against the wall trying to figure this thing out. And I can relate because I was there. And the reality is, thanks to some really good people in the space, combination of me wanting to learn and uncover the quote unquote secret and some really good people who are willing to tell me the truth. Those two worlds collided. And I was at actually annual convention first year. Our very first annual convention was in Atlanta, where I'm from. Anybody in Atlanta, local to Atlanta? Like anybody, any of y'all stressing out in Atlanta? We got snow in Atlanta today and the whole world's freaking out. I'm from Boston. So I'm like, we got like 3, maybe if I round up, we probably got 3 inches. And here you would think we got 42 feet. The entire, everything shut. There's not a car outside. There's no human. It's like, it's shut down. So first convention, early 2015, because it was after the 2014 was our first full year. I agree, Rochelle, but as you see, they're all shutting down. 2015, go to convention, and if you aren't registered, you should be, because that single event literally changed my entire life. Watching people on stage speak that were killing it, started asking some questions, didn't really listen to what they said on stage, even though I heard them, but I didn't listen, because afterwards I still asked like really poor quality questions about I was like, well, I heard what you said, but what leads do you work? And what county do you run in? And what time do you make phone calls? And I was asking just like very basic levels. Now I know kind of silly questions. And this is Mark Mead, by the way, I'm having a conversation with, a lot of y'all know him. He turns to me and he goes, hey, I got a question for you, dude. Because his whole talk was on leads and appointments. The whole business is leads and appointments, right? And my version of saying that, it's all about prospecting and presenting. You are not going to do well in this business if you don't prospect and you don't present. You're in sales. We are salespeople. We're independent contractors, which means you're self-employed. If you don't spend all day prospecting, you will not present enough to make enough sales. If you're broke, I promise you're not making enough sales. And the reason you're not making enough sales is because you don't make enough presentations. And you don't make enough presentations because you don't spend hardly any time prospecting. That's the sum of what I learned. The way I learned it was, I asked Mark Mead sideways questions after him telling me something just like that. He spent 30 minutes on stage saying what I just said in 30 seconds. He articulated it really well, though. He's an amazing speaker, and he gave it to us nice and smooth. And I didn't hear him. And I go to him and he goes, dude, I got how many appointments are you running? And I said about 42 a month, which is like 10 or 11 a week. And Mark Mead laughed in my face. And I was like, oh, I guess that wasn't a good answer. And he's like, dude, did you hear me on stage, bro? Like, did you hear anything I said? It's all about leads and appointments. And we start breaking down numbers, and I'm like, then I asked him how many he runs, and he told me his number, and I'm like, oh, that's, I see why he laughed at me, right? Because I was saying I want to make multiple six figures in this business and get rich and get my family out of debt and buy my wife a house and put my kids in private school and be able to donate money to church and take care of my family. And I want to do all these things and go on nice vacations and, you know what I mean? Like, get out of my 800 square foot house that we had. That was actually my wife's house. It wasn't even my house, you know, and I wanted to get out of the beater car, and I wanted to drive something that was like reliable. And you know what I mean? It's like, and I was saying all these words, but then I was 10 people a week, 5 days a week. That's only 2 a day. And out of 10, like 4 or 5 or 6 would no show me. So I'm making like 4 or 5 presentations a week, you know, and I am an accountant. So those that haven't heard the story, some of y'all heard this already, the way I got there in my own mind. And all this stuff I'm telling you, this is like a lot of these, like, this is how I speak to myself, right? So these are like conversations I was having in my own head 10 years ago now. And I take what he says and I go back and I start looking at kind of my numbers. I'm a nerd. I like to track a lot of things. A lot of y'all probably use the little tracker I have. If you don't, just johnwetmore.com/tracker, you can get it. It'll help you track all your numbers. And it's free. But I start looking at my numbers and I'm like, all right, cool. Call it 10, 12 appointments a week. Maybe I present to 6 or 8. Let's round up to give myself some better numbers and go 8 a week. At the time, I was doing field sales, kitchen table, in-home. I was driving to people's houses, sitting down at the kitchen table and presenting. At the time when I was new, I would say my average presentation was about an hour. So if I do that 8 times a week, that meant I spent 8 hours presenting, right? In order to get those presentations, I was making maybe 200 phone calls a week, 200-300 phone calls a week, right? In my head, I'm like, well, each one only takes a minute. So I'm spending 200 or 300 minutes a week, which 60, 120, 240, 300 minutes is 5 hours. So I'm like, I spend 5 hours dialing and I spend 8 hours presenting. So I'm spending 5 hours prospecting, 8 hours presenting. If it were timed when I was like, and I would start at 8 a.m. and I'd finish at 8 p.m., but somehow I'd still only end up with like $82 a day. You know what I mean? Like, I always say there's a difference between dialing all day and taking all day to dial. They're 2 very different approaches. And I was taking all day to dial. I wasn't actually dialing all day. And when I did the math, I'm like, well, prospecting for 5 hours a week and presenting for 8 hours a week, 13 hours a week, bro, that ain't, dude, I ain't never worked 13 hours a week in my whole life. I had a paper route when I was 9 and I worked more than 13 hours a week. You know, and I certainly counted all the other stuff in my head when I was like sorting my leads and checking them out, and I was on the calls and I was, you know what I mean, analyzing things and calling the carriers and all the stuff, all the noise we do, right? But I looked back to when I was in my early 20s, I worked in a warehouse. And I did 4 years working in a warehouse as like a selector. So I had a pallet jack. I don't know if anybody ever worked in a warehouse, like load stuff on trucks. I did that for 4 years, and I worked an overnight shift. What up, Frankie? Been a minute, bro. Good to see you, dude. So I'm loading these trucks, and the way it worked was you got a sheet with like an order, and you went to the computer and you typed in the order number, and it would say you got 17 minutes to fill this order. And there might have been 75 boxes on the order. And then the next one would be like, you got 32 minutes to fill this order. And there might have been like, 150 boxes on that order. They varied. But every time I punched an order in the computer, it told me exactly how long I had to complete that order. Right. So and I want someone to answer this. If the order I punched in the computer said you got 17 minutes to finish it, what do you think would have happened if I took 4.5 hours to finish that order? Because my mom called and needed me to go to the store and get milk for her.
You would be let go.
Okay, right? Like no one's confused by that. But what if I'm like, yeah, but I got something came up and it's emergent, and I gotta run to the store to get my aunt. She called and I gotta pick her up. She called, dude. I can't pick the order right now. I'll be back in a little while. I'll get the order later. I want to research the box that I'm picking up first. I want to know what's inside the box and the ingredients and how they make it before I pick it up. I just want to wait. I'll do it later. Right? I'll be fired. No one's confused by that. Right? If I didn't do this at an 80% efficiency of that time, so they did, when I was done with the order, it gave me a score at the end. And if I finished in under 17 minutes, I'd be over 100%. So you had better efficiency than they gave you. If it took me like 20 minutes, I'd get an 80, right? Because you didn't do it quite as fast as they said. If your score were under 80%, meaning if of that 17 minutes, if I wasn't picking up boxes the entire 17 minutes, if I scored under 80% consistently, they fired us. And I do 8, 10, 12 hours a night, every night. We didn't get to go home until all the boxes were loaded on all the trucks. I went in at 6 p.m. and we left when we were done. I didn't get to leave at 2 a.m. every day. It just isn't how it worked. Sometimes there were a lot of orders. Sometimes as a team, we were slower. Sometimes the way you package the pallets, it's different. The way they load the truck, sometimes it just takes longer. And so we didn't get to go home when we wanted to. We literally got to go home when every last order on the shelf was gone and every box was loaded into every truck. That's when we could go home. Right? And so I started looking at this business the same way, and I'm like, what if I had a timer every time I picked up the phone? In the second I hit end, the timer went off. What if I calculated my hours that way? Just like they did in the warehouse. Right? And so I started looking at it and going, and I'm going to give my numbers because I know it's different in today's world telesales. I'm going to just share my story the way it happened. Right? So take the concepts and apply them to what y'all do today. Right? Because there are variables. I'm not confused by that. I'm just literally telling the story. I don't want y'all to forget that part. Right? So I'm looking at it and I'm like, all right, well, I'm working 13 hours a week. I probably should be working at least 40. Like, just to live mediocre in life, we got to work 40. But if I want to be rich, shouldn't I work more? Like maybe 60 or 7. I don't know. I was working on a pizza joint for 4 years and I had to work 70 hours a week doing that sucker. And I got like Tuesday morning off. You know, every Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 4 years, I was at work 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. You know what I mean? So I start looking at this business and I'm like, what if I treat it like that asshole in the warehouse treated me? Like he watched my time like a hawk. What if I do that to myself? Because I am saying all these words of things I want to achieve. Right? And so I go, all right, well, how do I get to 40 hours with prospecting and presenting? Because that's the only way we make money. I was like, well, hell, I got to do a lot more of them. So meaning at the time, if I did 20 presentations a week, that'd give me 20 hours. I'm like, well, shit, that ain't quite 40. I guess I got to at least do more than that or fill it with something else. So let's just say 20 presentations at an hour, which in today's telesales, every time I do this exercise, people tell me the average presentation is 30 minutes now. I get 30 to 45. All right. So I'm using, when I was brand new numbers, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. The math I did in my head was 20 hours, 20 presentations gives me 20 hours. And then a phone call. Some of y'all suck at math and I apologize. Like, take off your socks and get your piggy toes out. I'm going to keep it really simple. So don't get overwhelmed. If you do 1 minute per dial, you can do 60 of them per hour. Really simple. 60 phone calls per hour, dialing on my cell phone, not these magic tools y'all use today. Right? So basic level 3rd grade math says if I did 600 dials, it'd be 10 hours if they were timed at a minute each. I know sometimes people answer. I know sometimes they go longer. I just did an average for myself to make myself happy. So if I spent 20 hours presenting, 600 phone calls is 10 hours talk time, if you will. We're listening to it ring, right? Like the phone's to my ear. And then I was like, well, I want to build a business too. And so I got to recruit. And those recruiting interviews were taking me, like, at the time, maybe 20 minutes each. So I could do 3 an hour. So I'm like, if I do 30 of those a week, that gets me 10 hours on recruiting calls. So that's how I got to 40. So I went 20 hours presenting, 10 hours making phone calls, prospecting, and 10 hours recruiting. all the other shit we have to do, training people, following up with clients, getting on calls like this, attending conferences, annuity training, Friday call, all the stuff we do. To me, that was going to be overtime. I was going to do 40 on my job. And all the other noise that we count today, it's overtime. You have to do it, just like I had to do it in the warehouse. Didn't have a choice. Everything wasn't done, you know? And so that one change from paying attention to my hours and doing it like it was timed, attorneys time their hours. Think about like that. I always use the example when I'm on like these algorithms on TikTok where they'll show me chess. I don't know why. I kind of like chess. And my son likes to play it on the phone, like the little chess app on the phone. And chess has a timer. When it's your turn, there's a time. And you ever see them when they make the move and then they hit the button and they turn the timer off? It's like that. That's how I envision this industry. If when you're on the phone, you hit the timer, and when you're off the phone, you hit it again. It stops counting. You know, and that one change, and you were here, Frankie. There's very few people I can tell this story that got to see the evolution. There are very few people here who watch. I sucked fucking it. When I got here, Frankie was already on stage. He was killing it. And I'm like, yo, I want to do like that. And now he'll be humble and say he wasn't killing it, but he was doing a lot better than me. And 2015, first convention, that's when I learned this. After that, I made that change. And, you know, I'll tell you this, from the day I had my license, 2010, all the way till March of 2015, cumulatively, meaning all the years added together, I probably issued 200 grand in 4.5 years, like cumulative. So from March, right after convention, you know, February, March is where I started to make the change. To the end of 2015, I issued 460K on my own pen, life volume. From one change. I didn't have a new script. I didn't get new leads. I didn't say anything different on the phone. I didn't have a fancy new presentation. I didn't have a new CRM. We didn't get a new carrier. I didn't sell any new products. I literally was like, yo, what if I just work 40 hours? What if I just try that this year? And my concept and like the name, what some of y'all bought the book, which I appreciate. The concept for me that year, again, being very analytical, I was like, what if I just do more now? And I worry about getting better later. What if I just try it? What will happen? And it's some people are like, that's kind of corny. I'm like, I'm rich now. So it kind of worked. And I went from like mediocre as shit to like being on stages. I ended number 4 in the company that year. You know, and then I started teaching that concept because I was like, there's plenty of people that can train on all this sales stuff. And I'm not saying that stuff's not important, but I didn't learn anything new in sales before I started doing more of it. Now, what's crazy is it was an active decision to do more now and get better later. I'm like, I'm not going to stop studying. I'm just going to reprioritize. Instead of being that paralysis by analysis guy, I'm going to go to work, and then over time, I'm going to still study, but I'm going to do it at midnight. Right? And then what I found is the doing more made me better later by default. Because I started having reps and I started studying people. Dude, Frankie's, and he's crazy, weird. It's funny what we get known for, right? Like after a long time. But dude, I remember like yesterday, like it was yesterday, bro, watching those videos on the 25-year cash back. How to close those mortgage protection leads. I'm like, yo, that seems simple. Oh my God, I can do that. Dude, I didn't sell a term policy if it wasn't a 20-year, 25-year CBO back in the day. That's all I sold. I saw 6, 8, 10 of them a week. You know, and then I learned different little tactics from other people. And crazy enough, then I kind of put my own spin on stuff. And now today, some of y'all watch the videos that I put out and you're like, oh, Wetmore's known for this. And I'm like, dude, if you knew how I created that, it was kind of dumb as shit. I was like, let me try this shit, see if it works. You know, because after you start selling a while now, you can start tweaking things and trying stuff and being creative and testing new lead things. You can start, there's some things you can do when you got some money. you know, and my life and my business and my career took off from that simple concept. And it's really not any deeper, you know, for most people. You know, I always say, like, I love all the training. But as you know, even if you've been watching it, y'all been watching training and you're still broke. Fair? I'm not saying stop watching the training, but there's something missing. It's like trying to bake a cake and you open the oven and every time it's still mush. I'm like, yo, you forgot the flour and the eggs, bro. No cake's coming out if you just put in sugar and water. It don't work that way. You need all the ingredients to bake a cake. And y'all are missing some of the main ingredients of making money. You're doing the training, cool. You're on this call, great. You're forgetting the work 40 hours part, the right way, the right 40 hours. I promise you, if y'all track your numbers like the way I tracked my numbers and made sure that you spent 40 hours prospecting and presenting, like there was a timer sitting right next to you. And every time you put down the phone, me or Frankie or one of the other, we hit the button and we turn off your timer. Your timer turns off if you ain't on the phone. And then you see if it adds up to 40. And tell yourself the truth at the end of the week. Most of us lie to ourselves throughout the week. And we say, like, I'm giving it my all. I had a guy tell me that yesterday on a training call just like this, last night, Caitlin's. He's like, man, I'm giving it everything I got, but I just got beat to shit on the phones. Da, 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 da. I started asking him some questions and I'm like, well, what time do you start? He's like, I don't know, 10 or 11. I'm like, that's giving it everything you got? I'm like, how many people hung up on you today? He was like, I don't know, like 15. I'm like, that's your definition of got my beat to shit? That's your definition of it? Like 15 or 20 people told you no? That's it. That's all you got? You know, Priscilla, the average good time to start. Here's what I say. I'm going to tell you what I do for me. I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. You all grown adults, you get to make your own decisions. I'm going to tell you what I did for my life and the way I looked at it. I looked at this thing and I said, now keep in mind, I'm messed up in the head. I'm broken. I think weird. I have to use weird tricks to motivate myself. I know I'm messed up. I know I'm negative by default. I know I can be kind of whiny. And so I have to like work on that. I worked on a lot and I'm not as bad today as I once was, but like, I still think messed up. And so I have to talk to myself in a certain way to make sure I don't let myself slack off. Okay. So I'm going to preface with that. Okay. So y'all do you. But for me, I didn't like dialing. I don't like people. If you know me, I don't like people, quite frankly. I don't like talking to strangers. I hate small talk. If I'm at a party with a bunch of people I don't know, like at the kids' school party, I'm talking to no one. Now this, I won't shut up. I'm going to go over time. You put me on stage, I won't shut up. I'm on video and social nonstop. And it weirds people out when when I go to the gym, every once in a while, someone will find me on social and they'll be like, hey, so I found your social. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And like, bro, you don't say 2 words here. I'm like, I know. I know. It confuses. I'm sorry. Anyway, what's up? It happens to me all the time. So I just need you to understand. And I grew up in Boston and like, I don't know, a lot of y'all are from Maryland and I know Frankie enough to know like Baltimore's pretty hood, like Boston's hood. And like, I don't know, talking to strangers isn't our thing, right? It's just, I don't know much about that world. So I'm living in Atlanta, trying to call people on the phone in the South. And I have no, as Mike Killamette used to say, I had no bedside manner. That's how he used to tell me I was an asshole to people. And so when people start telling me all this nonsense on the phone, my natural instinct was to argue with them. I wanted to prove that I was right. You know what I mean? They hang up on me, I'm gonna call them back and yell at them. Like I was really bad. And when people told me no, I'd get emotional and I get pissed off and I get sarcastic and I'd get kicked out of houses because that doesn't work. Right. So that was kind of like the core of who I was. And when I looked at the numbers and realized not only was I not dialing enough, I was doing it with a poor attitude, and I was doing it emotional, and I was doing it from a negative stance, which didn't help the communication, clearly. So I had fears and anxiety of doing a lot of calls because I knew if I picked up the phone, it was going to go rough. So I'm like, I don't really want to pick up the phone. Like, is there a cheat code? And I started talking to myself like, yo, what if like, and I tell you, it might be crazy to some of y'all, but I'm like, what if like Maddox, my youngest, he was 9 months old when we started. He's 13 now. What if someone kidnapped Maddox and the only way to find him was to call these leads? Then what's the name? Priscilla. Was it Priscilla that asked that question? What's a good time to start? So Priscilla, if Maddox was kidnapped and the only way to call these leads, in that context, then what would be a good time to start? The only way to find him is to call these leads. How early would you start then? First thing, define first thing? What time would you start? Literally, what time would you start calling if someone had one of your loved ones?
I guess like 8, 9.
You'd wait till 8 a.m. to start?
Can you call earlier than that? I don't know.
I'm not asking, that wasn't the question. See, we're overthinking now.
Mm-hmm.
I said, if someone kidnapped Maddox, how early would I start?
Immediately.
Would I think, and I'm not saying break rules, would I go like TCPA? Hold on, let me look that up.
Right.
No, I wouldn't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? How
Yeah.
many times would I call a lead in a row?
Back to back to back.
Because y'all heard triple dial. Y'all know we see you don't really do it every time, right? You get to 2 when you get a little nervous. You're like 3, ooh, third one? I don't know how to do that one. The third one? But if they had Maddox,
Keep going.
buddy, what time would you stop? Like, when would you just be like, I need a ham sandwich real quick?
When I get my kid.
Yeah, right. Yeah, buddy. You know, and so my mentality, I started going at it differently. And again, I'm not telling anyone to break any rules, but John Wetmore started dialing at 7 a.m. People go, that's early. Fair? Anyone thinking that's early? Who's thinking that? Be honest. Okay. You ever been outside at 7 a.m.? A lot of people up, aren't there? You ever been on the interstate at 7 a.m.? What's it look like? Shit, sun's out. People are honking at each other. What do you mean that's early? I don't know. I just, you know what I mean? Like, let's say you call me and then Frankie's your next lead. How long would you wait between those phone calls? Would you analyze the number first? Would you check the CRM 3 times first? Would you see if you called him before and what he said last time and he hung up on you last time? So he's probably going to hang up on you this time. So maybe I shouldn't call him again. What do I do? Oh my God. You know what I mean? His number's disconnected. Do you like call corporate and be like, yo, Frankie's number's disconnected. I need a credit on my lead. Can you, I can't, I spent $8 on this lead and it's disconnected. Or would you just call the next one? You know what I mean? And then I started learning how much I made per activity, right? I started doing some math and I was only making like $4 or $5 grand a month. And I was making a few hundred phone calls a month. But if anyone wants to take 4 or 5 grand, take it $4,500 and divide it by $300. I don't remember the exact math, but one of the chapters in the book, for those that read it, was like $17. It says 17, the number that changed my life. And one day I decided to do the math. It's chapter 4. And at that time, it came up to say, is that the math? Is that the exact math? I knew it was in the ballpark. I never remember the exact numbers. But when I took the 4 or 5 grand a month and the phone calls I was making per month, the math said, right, activity, deposit. So I took my deposits and I took my activity and I nerded out and I did 3rd grade math and divided one by the other. And it came to $17 every time I made a phone call. I was like, wait, what? Yo, like they don't even have to have Maddox now. I get 17 bucks every time I call one of these fuckers. How many times can I call them? Many as you want. Bro, give me one of your numbers right now. Anyone's number you want. And pay me today, right now. Literally right now. $17 every time I call. I'll call 400 times today. Anyone wants to throw me a 20 spot every time I call your mom, I'll do it right now. Give you my Venmo. Send it to me. I will literally do it today. And I don't care at all. And now I'm not in like a panic mode like I was with Maddox. Now I'm having fun. Hang up on me. Let me call him back. This is funny as shit. I made another 17 bucks too. Right? So now the game became fun. I wasn't just like, oh my God, panic, Maddox, blues. What? I'm like, yo, why would I start later? Why would I start at 8 when I could start at 7 to make 60 dials times 17 bucks? Let me go to town. Right? Now, what's the flip side? You make a big sale, 257 bucks a month, and you're like, party. Nah, dude. Remember, you made the money on the dial, 17 bucks a phone call. You didn't make no money right there. Keep working. Big sale, little sale, none of that mattered to me anymore. I knew what I made every time I did an activity that equaled money. Now, did I get the money that day? Not always. Sometimes it came next Tuesday. But what I loved about the deposits and the activity is it accounted for all the bullshit, because I don't get the deposit till after the chargebacks. The deposit includes all the chargebacks and the cancels and the no-shows. And the, if you're making the deposit, it's net. So it allowed me to ignore all the noise in the middle. Right. And I did the math one day in my career, and for my career, and I don't, someone, hell, you could probably quote the number better than I can if you read it. But I think my career total, I learned one day I did it on booked appointments too. And I was making like, at the time, like 250 bucks every time I booked an appointment was the average. You know, I got better as the title of the book. And I think in my career, every time I booked an appointment, it paid me 400 bucks. You know, now my biggest commission was 34 grand on annuity. My smallest one was probably like, yo, I wrote a kid's policy, made 12 bucks. You know, it is what it is. But when I put it all into a bucket and I do the averages, just like they do in baseball, sports people, guy hit 322 this year. Yeah. You know how many games he hit? 0? Lots of them. And then some games he batted 1,000. Dude, they didn't induct him into the Hall of Fame when he went 5 for 5 for a game. And he didn't want to quit baseball when he went on a 0 for 30 streak. He just knew if he kept swinging and kept working, he'd average out. You know, and so many people miss that along the way. We look at our results every day. Like, and we say poor things to ourselves. I just got beat up. Today was a bad day. No, someone actually got their ass kicked today and beat the shit out of. Somebody actually had a bad day and got taken in an ambulance to the hospital. Maybe to the cancer ward, maybe to whatever department they take you to when you're dead. I don't know where they go. The morgue? Is that what happened? You know what I mean? Like, that's a bad day. So y'all got to be careful the way you speak to yourself. Right? Do we have problems? Sure. What does a problem mean to you? Bad day? I don't know. For me, a problem means opportunity. It's an opportunity to get better. It's an opportunity to work on myself. It's an opportunity to learn how to overcome something. Like when you start to solve problems, you start to make real money in life. When you start to run into problems and you curl up in a ball and cry like you're 12, you stay broke for a long time like I did till I was 37 years old. It's not like I made this decision when I was 20. I was 37 and broke. You know, and if I look at who I was 10, 12 years ago relative to today, I'm a completely different human because I had to work on it a little bit at a time every day. And I still do it. Y'all that follow me on social, dude, I share a lot of stuff. I'm still trying to figure myself out. But I give myself a little bit of grace because I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do things wrong and I'm going to say stupid things. I'm going to we're going to mess up. You know, and if you can't become someone who can have the adversity to get through problems, and then you say things like, I want to be rich, those two don't align. You will never get away from problems. I don't care how big a business you have. I don't care what number you are on the leaderboard. I don't care what you got going on in life. You will never get away from having problems. So if you can't figure out how to solve them, or at least solve more of them, or be a lot more unemotional about problems, or even what you define as a problem. A few people hanging up on you ain't that bad a day. And imagine if instead of getting mad at the people that hung up on you, or getting mad at the chargeback, or getting mad at your lack of deposits, or getting mad at, you know, your car payment that's past due, or your rent payment you got to make, or you got to borrow money from mom in order to take care of a medical thing, or whatever it is you got going on. Instead of getting mad at all that stuff, you ever thought about getting mad at yourself for the lack of activity you have? You ever thought about getting mad at yourself for starting at 10 a.m. instead of 7 a.m.? You ever get mad at yourself for stopping at 6 p.m. and watching Netflix or going to the thing instead of staying on the phones and prospecting? You're in sales. I don't have money for leads. Go look at my YouTube. I did a video. I put it out like 3 days ago. That 2 days ago is like, if I'm broke as shit in insurance, what do I do? The short answer is, you know, if you open your front door, just open it up, look out there. There's 300 million people out that front door. Go prospect. You ain't got to buy the magic lead from File to make money in this business. Do they work? Hell yeah. Is it kind of a cheat code? Hell yeah. Should you invest in them? Yes, as much as possible. Why? So you don't have to open your front door and go prospect in the world. However, if you ain't got the money, you're just going to sit at home and complain to your buddy or your upline or your cousin or your spouse, your wife, your girlfriend, your kids. You're just going to complain? Or you're going to go, yo, I'm in sales. I got to go prospect. See you later. And you go out into the world and you prospect. I can give you a million ways to do it, but I don't have time to talk about it. Go watch the video. But you just talk to people. You open your mouth. You're in sales. Don't forget you're in sales. We are in sales. You know, and sales takes work. And you build momentum. And then you start to build momentum. Well, now you better, what are you going to do when you get the money? Don't mess up and pay that credit card that's already 4 months behind. Or what's going to happen? You're going to be in the same spot. You're going to have to open your front door again. You make the money. Now you got a choice to make. Do I invest back into the ability to make more money? Or do I spend it on the dumb shit, the behind stuff, the important things? Let me just catch this one up. Let me just, I got to pay over here. If you ain't figured it out yet, that hamster wheel sucks. Imagine if you took the whole commission and you whack it down on leads. Y'all can make money in like 48. Y'all can sell a policy today. Won't it pay today? Won't you get a deposit tomorrow these days? Worst case, Monday morning. And then we go pay something that's behind and worry about a $42 late fee. I'm like, yo, how about I keep my money and go make 3 G's with it and pay the $42 late fee? That's me. Y'all do you. I'm like, my credit already sucks and it's already past due. I need leads. You know, and for me, that's how I got out of the hole. And I never wanted to get in this position again where I was worried. And after making those decisions, quite frankly, I've never worried about money again. One change, one decision, and that change was overnight. You know, what I always tell people is like, and I feel bad because I feel like I always blast the people that are good at sales training. But I'm like, do you think there's any way possible, right? Like, do me this. I want y'all to think of this number, and I want you to type it in the chat. If you go in the last 7 days, how many people have you personally presented to? I want you to type that number in the chat right now. The last 7 days, ballpark it. Don't run out and look at your spreadsheet, just ballpark. Don't go in your CRM, just ballpark. How many presentations last 7 days? Don't be shy. If your number's 0, appreciate you putting 0, Dana. Cheryl, 1, 3, 4, 4, 6, 0, 7, 3. This is one of my favorite exercises to do. And then I'm gonna open it to someone if y'all, I don't know how long you want me to talk, girl, but I kind of want to see if someone actually wants some help. 35. All right. So you see a very drastic difference in some people. All right. Big differences. But those of y'all that got like 4, 3, 6, 7, 3, 14, whatever the number is, right? If it ain't 35, is that the biggest one? I think I saw 40 something. Where's the big? I got two 35s, 26, respectable. Not necessarily lighting the world on fire 24/7, but pretty damn good, especially relative to most, right? But I go, take the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. Do you really think, with all your heart deep down, that you're going to watch a training today and you're going to see 7 people again next week and make 4 times the money because you learned something new on a phone script? Does anyone think that they can learn a phone script or in a way to overcome, I want to think about it, or something like, I got this lead instead of that lead, and I got a new city where I got the lead? Do you think if that's what you change, that you can present 7 times next week and make 4 times the money? Does anyone believe that? No one. Okay, now work with me here. What's 7 times 4? 14, 28, right? What if we ran 28 appointments next week instead of 7? What's the chance that you make 4 times the money then? What's your belief level now? Scale of 1 to 10. All right. Hence the concept. Why don't we do that instead of whatever it is you're doing now that ain't working? I just chose to take a different approach. I'm like, what if I just try it? I mean, people keep saying it, and I don't think anyone's confused. I don't know everybody that put the big number of presentations, but a couple I know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but those are all the ones at the top of the leaderboard, right? Is that fair? Do y'all think it's something else? Like, I know I can pick on someone. KG, 35 of them. Y'all know she might have a little bit better skill set. But she had to run 35 appointments to make the money she's making. God bless her, but she ain't that amazing at this. That's not why she's at the top of the leaderboard. Is she good? Yeah, she runs a lot more appointments, dude. There's only so many objections. You get good at them. But it's not like she's running 7 and she's at the top of the leaderboard. You're never going to get to the top of the leaderboard with 7. Ever in your life. And if you're the one anomaly, because there's always one when I do this from stage especially, dude, I ain't talking to you. High five, stay out of the way, because the rest of us don't know how to do that shit. And I sure as hell ain't training on it. I'm just an average dude from a warehouse that wanted to print money. And everyone told me it was all this stuff until, thank God, Mark Mead was like, yo, just work your ass off, bro. I promise you it'll work. I was like, that's it? Why didn't someone tell me that sooner? He's like, yeah, I don't know. A lot of dumb people. Go to work. It's like, got it. And now I'm here doing this from one thing. And I've not changed it at all. We had, I don't know, some obnoxious number, 5,000 something agents sell a policy in our group last year. We have like 1,800, 2,000 a month. And I have a lot of help, a lot of managers, a lot of people help me build this thing. I don't take credit for all of it at all, but I did get the ball rolling. And all I've ever taught was this. Will I teach phone script? Sure. In-home? Sure. But if you're running 7 appointments a week, I ain't teaching that shit. Why? Don't work anyway. Who cares? And it's me misleading you, saying if you just say these words, you'll be rich. I'm like, I'd rather not lie. I'd rather just tell you the truth. Because it seemed easier to me, and I wish someone did it to me. So I'm like, well, there it is, dude. That's how you get rich in this business. You know, you're gonna have to think about things differently. You're gonna have to control your emotions, and you're gonna have to work a lot. Can one day you work less to have the same result? Yep. One day, can you buy less leads to have the same result? Yep. Should you get good at referrals to buy less leads? Yep. Should you learn how to sell annuities to buy less leads? Yep. Should you learn how to do IULs? Yep. Should you do client reviews to be more profitable? Yep. But today, go to work. Make sense? Who's got questions? Who wants help? Or Kelly, what do you got? KG, you got anything? You can open it up. Anyone can unmute. I don't care at all.
Heck yeah. First of all, again, thank you again for doing this. We got a lot of new agents on, and you just really just broke it down to, instead of overthinking, just basically go to work, right? Um, what would you say? Let me ask you, being that, we're building, we're training, what have you seen are the best leads for a new agent to start with?
The ones that have humans at the other end of the phone number. Here's what I say. I'm gonna ask you some questions. Like at its core, what is a lead? Like you call and a person answers. Fair?
Fair.
There is a human that's a lead in every single lead type possible. That's the one commonality. That it's a human that is the lead. Yeah, I know, a-hole that's listening. Sometimes it's a robot and it's a fake lead. I got you. The overwhelming, the leads are people. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think all of the people love their family?
Yes.
Okay.
Most of them.
Okay. Does anyone dispute that the people love their family, no matter where the lead comes from? Anyone dispute that? They probably love their family. Okay. Is the lead eventually going to die?
Yes.
Okay. So if every lead loves their family and every lead is eventually going to die, doesn't that make them all good leads?
Heck yeah.
Why do we have to ask more questions after those two? I would love someone to explain to me why anything else. Wait, you want the lead to call you and do the paperwork for you and work and close every single time? You want that lead, the high quality lead, one that works every time? Y'all want that for real? All right. Anybody remember like basic level economics, supply and demand? Hey, File, you still on here, bro? What
Yeah,
if
I'm here.
every lead you made turned into a $1,500 sale?
It'd be $150 lead.
You would sell that lead? I just call them all and close them myself and forget the agents. Who needs
I
y'all?
built an LOA agency.
You don't need anybody. Meaning if that were possible, if what y'all want were possible, one, what he said, the cost of that lead would be so astronomical, you wouldn't pay for it. So careful what you ask for. And if any lead created always led to a sale, the insurance companies would cut us out. They don't need us. They have the product.
Hey, John, can I add to something that you're saying?
Please.
Last year when we started all this lead stuff, I sat down, we had a lead that was coming out. It was like $12, right? And I was calling it and I was trying to make the perfect lead. I added so many questions on the damn lead that at the end, I even made the person answer a question that said, I promised to answer the phone and talk to you. And I made them click yes. The lead ended up being $90. And I did close it. But then when I went back and did all the math, I was actually making more money on the $12 lead because the other one was so expensive. It was high intent, but I was like, I make more money on the damn cheap lead because I need more of them. And I realized there was no perfect lead.
Here's why, dude. A cheap lead, right? People mess up with words, dude. And a cheap lead, they think like the value of the lead is cheap.
Yeah, that is true.
Let's walk through the evolution of a cheap, aged, low price lead. Like let's pretend that the lead is a piece of paper. And it goes through like a factory, one of those, what are those things called? Where the car, it goes through that little conveyor belt thing. Y'all know what I'm talking about? It's like, and it just goes through the whole thing. Like, let's pretend the lead is that. The lead comes in day one. It was filled out 9 seconds ago. Okay? I don't think anyone's confused that it's going to cost more than when it's down the conveyor belt a bunch. Right? But how does it get down the conveyor belt? A new agent has it. Fair? Now I want y'all to think deep here. If you go on a scale of 1 to 10, relative to the way I just explained calling leads, triple dialing them, nonstop, no gaps in between, dialing all day, timer, On a scale of 1 to 10, relative to that, how effectively do you personally work leads? On a scale of 1 to 10, how effective are you? Think about your number. You want to type them, type them. I would love to see it. Scale of 1 to 10, how amazing are you at this? Okay. And a 3, and you're rating yourself. Ask me, Frankie, or Foul to rate you. The number will be lower. I promise you. But we'll go with your number, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Now it gets cheaper. I get to buy it, and all I have to do is compete against a 3. Yo, this might be the easiest thing ever. So you buy an agency and you're like, oh my God, someone else had it. And they, oh my God, it's just not, I'm like, thank God, some dipshit had it that didn't work them. The average insurance agent is lazy as fuck. And you get the chance to buy a lead behind them? Sign me up. So I printed money on age leads. Hey, remember Frankie when they came out when the direct mail leads, not when they came out with the direct mail leads back in the day, and there's still some equivalent of it today, where when I was new, if I saw the date of birth was like 1944, I'd be like, nah, I ain't calling that one. You know, I don't know what the math is today on that. I just know that's what all my leads said. So I don't know what that make them 80. I don't know how it makes them today. But like you see the 72-year-old and you're like, I ain't calling that one. Dude, the lead vendor, the mail house back in the day when we used to do direct mail, they sold a regular direct mail lead for $45 a lead. Direct mail, drop in the mail, they fill out junk mail, they mail it back. I don't know. Some of y'all might be like, what the hell does that mean? Some of us are old, right? So we had this direct mail lead, $45 a lead. If the lead was over 70, they sold the same lead for $8. You remember this, Frankie? I don't know if you remember the lead vendor.
Yeah.
I think it's still out there. I don't know if they still have this lead. I don't know if it still exists. But $45 for a regular lead, $8 for if they were over 70, the lead went down to $8. Why? Because none of y'all would buy it because you're like, they're 70. Oh, I can't sell that. They're sick and they're old and they can't afford it and it's too expensive. And you know what John Wetmore did? I cleaned up on them. I'm like, give them all to me. They were called senior mortgage protection leads. Give them all to me. Yeah, they went up to 50 to $75 a lead for sure. This was in, I'm talking 2014, bro. $45 a lead back in the day when postage was like a nickel, I think. I don't know what it costs, right? And we didn't have cars and shit. We just barefoot. But everyone, they sold them for $8 a lead because none of the agents wanted them and they all complained and bitched. So I took them all. And that year, Frankie, I got an award. Hold on, this is one of my kids. Hey, what up, dude? What's up? Yeah, come on. See you. That year, bro, I was the #1 final expense producer in the company. I still have the award on my shelf in my office. And I bought 0 final expense leads. Why was I the #1 final expense producer? Because I learned how to take someone that was 72 years old and sell the whole buying time, equity protection, payment protection, whatever you want to call it today. I learned how to sell that clientele. And I learned how to, it's one of my most popular videos out. I learned how to sell that client. And dude, outside of 25-year cash back, that's all I sold. I cleaned up selling 10, 15, 20, $30,000 policies on 72-year-old mortgage protection leads because everyone else thought they sucked because they were $8 and they can't be worth a shit. Then I cleaned house. And like thousands of agents use that presentation to this day. You know what I mean? And y'all have the same opportunity with, you can do the same thing. I'm telling you, your competition isn't that steep. It's just not, you know? So for me, if you ain't got the money to invest in the stuff that came out today, and again, I'm not the rule guy. So I don't have a clue what the rules are with leads and I don't know or care, quite frankly. I'm prospecting, bro. And so for me, it's like, if you need more at bats because you ain't got no money, that's the best lead. Kali. Okay, I don't remember who asked that. Maybe it was KJ. I forget who asked. But like to me, that's the best lead. You know what I mean? The best lead is someone I can call instead of sitting on my couch.
John, we gotta wrap up because we gotta go on the Sean Mike weekly call. But
He's more
real
important
quick,
than me.
I think
How should?
well he runs the company.
Yeah, I agree. He
So
pissed if he found out I held y'all up.
yeah, I know. So we don't want to get any of us in trouble. So for the wrap up with why everybody here, if they're thinking about why they shouldn't go to the convention, why does everybody here need to be at convention, no matter what their money looks like? Why do they need to be there?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I had someone DM me this morning and was like, I mean, I don't think I'm going to go. I've heard it just, I should just do the work instead of going to learn. I'm like, that might be the dumbest statement I've ever heard. It's like everybody who's had success in the industry you're in is going to share everything they've learned to have success. They're going to literally give you the cheat code. Now, if you go there to get hammered and not pay attention and hang out with your buddies and be negative, it don't work. But if you go there to be coachable and absorb information and ask questions of people that are top tier, it will literally change your life. And the things that I learned from there, if you, I give out a ton of free resources for people to goal set and plan their year. If you go to johnwetmore.com/resources, there's some free worksheets you can download and map out your year. And if you map out the year and set your goals with these worksheets, and then you go to convention and you actually go there to learn, you will walk away with every bit of information you will ever need in your life to have massive success in this space. I would not be on this call today without the conventions. 2015 convention, I was just an everyday dude sitting in the crowd trying to figure this industry out. I was in the last row, scared as shit, broke as can be. And I walked away from that convention as a different human. And I've made millions and millions and millions of dollars in this business since that first convention. And it's weird all of us go, if that ain't a clue. You know what I mean? It's like success leaves clues, they say, right? We'll all be there.
FFLconvention.com is the website. John. Thank you, guys. Can we unmute real quick and thank John for his time? He did not have to do this. He don't
Thank
make
you,
a dollar.
brother.
Thank you, John. We
Thank
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you for helping me sell Final Expense.
Thank you.